Despite having no new games announced, 2022 was a surprisingly good year for Duke Nukem fans. First of all, back in April we had the cancelled PSP version of Duke Nukem Critical Mass hit the internet. Then in May we had the 2001 build of Duke Nukem Forever. Just a month or so later, in June, we had news of a potential new movie in the works by Legendary Pictures. And in December we also got Duke Nukem Endangered Species, which is an early version of the game Vivisector: Beast Within. But it doesn't stop there, ladies and gentlemen. As a 2022 Christmas miracle, we were also blessed with the cancelled 1996 2D platformer version of Duke Nukem Forever. Hello everyone, I'm Revenant Evil, and today I thought I'd take a quick look at this recently unearthed gem from Duke's past. I hope you enjoy. We all know about Duke Nukem Forever by now, but not everyone will know that originally Duke Nukem Forever was set to be another 2D side-scrolling entry into the series, in the same vein as the first two games. This version of the game even predates the announcement of Duke Nukem Forever, which was officially announced in 1997. Small disclaimer, just to be clear, this obviously isn't the same Duke Nukem Forever we would end up seeing in 2011. It's a completely different game. The name of this scrap project would end up being recycled and used for the game that we all know and despise. And it must be stressed that what we have here is very early and nowhere near the quality you'd expect from a finished product. So, without further ado, let's take a look at this long-lost prototype. Okay, so here it is. As you can see, it draws inspiration from Duke Nukem 1 and 2. Let's take a look at the basic controls. The arrow keys are to move and the mouse is to aim. Left click is shoot and right click is also run. Running into a wall, Duke will do this random backflip. I'm not sure how useful it would be, but it's pretty cool to see, I guess.
Damn, I'm good.
The A button will turn you invisible and the C button will shrink you. There's also an infrared mode. I couldn't seem to find much use for these, but I thought I'd show them off anyway, as they do give a glimpse as to what the developers had in mind in regards to game mechanics. When pressing D, Duke will mount a jet ski, which, on the surface, seems pretty cool, but I can't seem to get off the bloody thing, so I avoid it as much as I can. My problem is that I'm so used to pressing WASD to move my character that I'm finding myself jumping on the jet ski all the time, and every time I do, I have to close the game and start again. Fun times. Pressing M will have Duke jump on his motorbike. It would have been interesting to see how this would pan out had the game been finished, but as it stands, it essentially has no use here. To dismount the bike, you just press down. I wish this worked on the jet ski. And of course there's the trusty jetpack, which we can use with the press of the J button. We'll be using this quite a bit to help with exploration. Unfortunately, there's no musical voice acting present yet, which is a shame. I always look forward to hearing remixes of my favourite songs. It would have been awesome to hear this game's version of Grab Bag, or whatever it would have had, I guess, as the trope of every Duke game has a version of Grab Bag hadn't yet been established. I was half expecting some placeholder voice clips and music to be borrowed from 3D, but no, there's nothing here besides some sound effects, which perhaps isn't too surprising. So, we've seen what the game looks like, but what was the story going to be about in this version of the game? According to the files found in the game, the story was to feature series' recurring villain, Dr. Proton, who has set several large explosives in key locations along the San Andreas Fault, and plans to separate California from the rest of the United States, dubbing it Proton Island. For some reason, the president doesn't seem to care, and decides to take no action, but, and I think you'll like this, according to this early draft, Superman tries and fails to foil Dr. Proton's scheme. Enter Duke Nukem. Duke first hears about Proton's plan while being awarded medals for stopping the alien invasion from the previous game. Upon hearing that the president decides to do nothing, Duke steps in to liberate Proton Island, partially motivated by the fact that he owns a condo in Malibu.
It's good to be the king.
There are 4 builds of the game here, each with its own level. The levels presented in these builds are so small that I think I can afford to show them all. Also, the game is so unfinished that using the jetpack and some glitches are necessary to see everything, so bear with me. So with that in mind, let's take a deeper dive into this long-lost game and check out the levels. The first level has us in a tiny area, where Duke has presumably crash-landed. I expect those bastards probably shot up his ride again. All there is here are some trees, your wrecked spaceship, and some impassable walls. I quite like this cool atmospheric rain effect. But what is this? The game isn't freezing, the rain just randomly stops for a few seconds. You know, just like it does in real life. But that's it, there's nothing out of bounds either as far as I can tell. Level 2 is set indoors with a more castle-like theme. There are some exploding barrels, but there's not really much else to see. These ladders don't seem to work, but it doesn't matter too much anyway because by pressing tab, we can just climb anywhere. But it's glitchy, and the only way I can get off is by jumping. Also of note is how there are a few landmines strewn about, and walking over them will indeed cause them to explode. They won't hurt you though, as you're unable to take damage in this game. Level 3 seems to be using the same graphics from Level 2. I think the level is slightly larger here, but it's very similar to the previous build. Unfortunately, the jetpack doesn't work here, so I can't explore as easily. I had to use the ladder glitch to look further into the level, but I couldn't find anything noteworthy. And finally we have the fourth build, or Level 4, which is also very short. It seems to take place in some underground caverns. The coolest thing here is that we encounter some enemies. As mentioned earlier, these enemies are called the Protonites, which are cyborgs created by Dr. Proton. They can take a beating, but they will eventually die. In this build, the devs were in the process of testing the enemy artificial intelligence. And this guy right here with no head is an example of an enemy with low aggression, and will always run away from Duke. There's an elevator here that I can't figure out how to board. However, we can use the ladder glitch to get higher into the level, where we can see a few assets, but letting go of the button will crash the game. And that's all there seems to be in regards to levels. One interesting thing that I discovered when looking through the game's item menu is that there's an item called Coke Can, which we're able to place into the level. For those unaware, the games before Duke 3D used Coke cans as health power-ups, and originally Duke 3D was also going to use the soda power-ups too, as we can see in its prototype Lame Duke, but they decided to scrap them and change them into medkits. For some reason, they were going to bring back the soda cans, despite them being cut from the previous game. Looking through the documents provided with the game, we can see that the can of Coke was to be the large health pickup, granting Duke 50% health. If the can was shot, it would shoot up into the sky as it does in Duke 1. The difference here is that the can would fall back down as a crumpled can. The devs were intending these crumpled cans to be kickable, and were toying with the idea of being able to recycle them for goodies. The medkit was to be the more common health pickup, granting 25% health. The nuclear molecule from Duke Nukem 1 was also set to return. This essentially acts as an atomic health, allowing the player to go over the 100 health limit. But I find it interesting that they're using the terminology from the first game. There's also a bunch of other items that you can spawn, but they don't do anything. The game was also to have 4 multiplayer modes: Deathmatch, Capture the Flag, a wave-based survival mode called Trial of Strength, and a racing simulation, Trial of Agility. Unfortunately, the multiplayer modes don't seem to be present here, so we're not able to see them. The heads-up display is quite typical for the time, mimicking what you might see in games like Doom or Wolfenstein. The HUD displays a scanner, Duke's health and armour, spelled with a U, and his weapons and current inventory item. Looking closer, we can see that Duke's able to carry up to 10 weapons. Unfortunately, they all share the same sprite, but they do behave differently. So with that said, let's take a closer look. Right, first weapon.
Pussy shot.
Wait, what? What did he just say?
Pussy shot.
Now, I might be hearing this wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's calling that the pussy shot.
Pussy shot.
Please someone tell me what he's saying. But yeah, we get the pussy shot, which sounds like the shotgun from Duke 3D. Then we have
Rapid fire.
Rapid fire, which sounds similar to the Ripper cannon.
Stun grenades.
Stun grenades, which are actually rockets.
Rapid plasma.
Rapid plasma, which seems to be a type of grenade launcher.
Rocket.
Wait, that's a different person. Okay, whatever. And if these are rockets, I'd want my money back. Then we have
Flamethrower.
a flamethrower that fires electricity.
Nitrogen.
Oh, and we're back to this guy. Weird. Anyway, then we have nitrogen, which should be the freeze thrower, but looks like some kind of homing weapon.
Sonic disruptor.
Sonic disruptor, which is actually the flamethrower.
Weapon depleted.
Weapons 9 and 10 both say weapon depleted. 9 looks like it might be the freeze thrower, and weapon 10 looks to be the wave gun. So yeah, the weapons here are still very much under development. The files mention at least 2 other weapons that can't be found in the game. The Mighty Foot, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, and a special weapon called the Heavy Barrel. It's a weapon that was broken into 5 pieces, and Duke must find them all hidden throughout the level. Once all 5 pieces were obtained, the weapon would be complete, and for a small amount of time, Duke would have access to this special gun, complete with infinite ammo. But I see no evidence for its existence other than in the text documents, so I'm not sure if they ever got round to implementing it. And that's it for the weapons. So, why was the game cancelled? If I were to speculate, I think its cancellation is most likely because of just how insanely popular Duke 3D was. And according to this timeline that I found in the final Duke Nukem Forever, I'd be right. Going back to a 2D side-scroller may have been perceived as a step backwards to most people in the 90s. If we compare this prototype to the first 2 games, we can see that the technology has come along quite a bit. I'm especially impressed by the screen's scrolling effect. But I think most people's expectations were on another fully 3D follow-up, and perhaps the guys at 3D Realms thought so too. But I don't know guys, what do you think? What we do know is that after the project was abandoned, the game engine was used to make a game called Ravager, which was also being developed by 3D Realms. Ravager was later sold to a company called Inner Circle Creations, who changed the title to Alien Rampage and released the game in 1996. Now, I didn't play too much of this, but you can still see some of Duke's influence in the game. For example, the difficulty selection screen looks very reminiscent of the one found in Duke 3D. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around. I'm totally stoked that this has come to light. What's not to love about more Duke Nukem prototypes to explore? Obviously, what we have here isn't particularly fun. It's barely a game at all. But it is an interesting piece of Duke's history, and I'm happy that it can now be finally archived and explored by the fans. And if you fancy playing this for yourself, I'll leave links in the description below. You can even play it in your browser if you like. I've made some other videos about Duke Nukem, so if you're interested, I'd really appreciate it if you check them out. But thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more. I'll see you in the next video. See ya!
Pussy shot.